Hey guys, my name is Joe Caltabiano, Vice President of Vehicle Entertainment at VOXX Electronics, and today we're just doing a little short video on the best practices for installing our Seatback Universal Smart TV solution, its bracket. A couple things here. These systems go in, it could live forever in the vehicle, or the beauty of the system, since it's a universal type design, it can be removed at some point. So if it's a lease vehicle, or let's just say you're doing a dealer demo on a showroom floor preload that may get sold with the vehicle, or maybe the vehicle gets sold without the video system and they want to move it to another showroom vehicle, we're going to go over little tips and tricks on how to install it and minimize or actually prevent any possible damage during the installation. So obviously we start here with removing the headrest out of the vehicle, and you're left with these seat post guides that go into the seat. It's going to vary depending on the seat. Some seats are flat, some seats have shoulders like this one. You may have a leather or vinyl seat top. This one is kind of a hybrid of leather and a felt material. So first thing you're going to want to do is you want to assess the seat top to minimize any damage during your installation. Always use a plastic tool as far as what we're going to show you as far as wire routing. So when you're looking around the seat top here, poke around, you're going to feel around, see where your best clearance is. In some cases, it's going to be easier to route the cable up through the bottom of the seat and bring the cable out, or go from the top of the seat down. So in either case, you just want to make sure you have room. Usually there's some pretty good play around the post guide, so you don't have to cut anything. Certainly we don't want to cut, right? We want to be able to, if the event occurs, remove this without it leaving any trace of an installation. So you just feel around. In this particular seat, there's a lot of play in the front. So we're going to stick our plastic tool down just to give a little guidance. Then we're going to route our cable. So I'm not going to route the cable completely through the seat, but just to give you a little show of what we're doing here. Stick your cable in, and then you're going to grab it from underneath, feed the cable down, and then once that cable routing is complete, then you're going to leave about, I'd say, approximately 8 inches of cable, 8 to 12, to give a little play to be able to plug this through the seat back. So as I mentioned, once you have your cable route through the seat, whether you're bringing it from the bottom up or you're going from the top down, you still want to leave a good amount of length to give you some wiggle room as you apply the bracket, and then plug this into the back of the seat back monitor. So what we're going to show you here now is just a best practice on how to create a buffer, because this particular seat is a felt top seat, so slides easily, doesn't really have to worry about any friction between the bracket, the cable, and the material underneath. But if this was a leather seat or a vinyl seat, my suggestion here is just to create a little barrier. So I just took a piece of cloth here, fabric, or any shop cloth you have around. Just create that barrier right there, so when I apply the actual bracket itself, I'm sliding it underneath the seat post guides onto the seat without possibly creating any friction between the bracket, the cable, and the top of the seat itself. Once that's applied, just pull out your cloth. And now, if this was to be removed for any reason, whether it's you got a new vehicle and moving it to another lease vehicle or an owned vehicle, or if it's a preload showroom demo and the seat system doesn't get sold with the actual vehicle itself, it could be removed without leaving any trace of installation. Certainly because of this vehicle may live in different climates, right? It could be in the upper 48 states, could be in the lower where it's hotter. Just by the nature of this resting on here for, days, weeks, months, years on end, it's going to leave some kind of impression. Not that it's creating damage, it's just going to leave pressure marks, right? So as anybody knows who's done restyle work with seat coverings and stuff like that, if you do remove this and there's a slight little outline of the impression of the bracket, just let it sit out in the sun for a little bit, and that'll usually cure itself. Or just apply low heat with a heat gun. Certainly not get too close here, we don't want to melt anything, but low heat will generally smooth out any of the lines that are left and leave no trace of the installation. So continuing on with this installation, now that the back bracket is applied and we have our cable coming out the bottom side, nice and hidden. We're going to do the same thing for the front bracket. So again, we're just going to apply the cloth here to create a buffer between the material and the bracket. And then we're going to take our front bracket that sits cantilever on top of the other bracket. That's how it kind of sandwiches around the seat post guides and gives you a nice stable mounting. So we're going to take that, apply it up. The middle part here, as you can see, is closed. The other ones are open because there could be different diameters in these seat post guides. So slide it over that first middle nut here, or bolt, and then once you have it there, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to push slightly down, push it under as far as it can go so it sandwiches in. Remove your cloth, and now you're ready to bolt these bolts down. So again, there's a lot of differences in seat tops. This one has the shoulders. The bracket fits nicely in between these. If you did have very narrow shoulders, what we suggest is, because we have so many contact points to bolt this thing down, if you had a seat top with shoulders narrower than this, you could cut off these ends. Still have enough meat in the middle in order to bolt this thing down and keep it still locked down very solid. It's a very rare occurrence that you'll find shoulders that are narrower than this, but if that is the case, you could take your grinder, any air tool you have with the saw, air saw, or a metal blade to cut this off. So this way you have that room if necessary, but like I said, very rare occurrence. So you're gonna basically apply all the nuts here. I'm not gonna do it in this video, but put on your washers, put on your lock nuts, bolt that down. Once that's down, then the secondary part of this is a plastic bracket. So as you can see here, you know, wiggling this, once these bolts are down, this in of itself keeps this thing locked on the top of the seat back without it being flimsy and flopping around. But for extra support, we supply this other bracket. So this one is basically in a sandwich on top. So you can apply this down, same thing, washers and bolts to lock it down. And the one thing we have here is we created these cutouts that are different widths, right? So it's elongated because you could have narrower or wider post hole openings. And what the beauty of this system is, we do not want to interfere with the movement of the factory headrest once the whole thing is installed. The headrest will still have free motion independent of this mounting bracket, so you're not impeding any of the safety aspects of the vehicle. So once this bracket is applied and the washers and the locking nuts are secured, then the only thing left is the finishing cover, and this just kind of cleans up the whole install, hides all of that. We leave these slotted cutouts around the side because it's very unlikely that someone's gonna constantly keep adjusting their headrest, right? Once it's in a set position, that's usually where it stays. For vehicles that come with the adjustment at the post itself, you could still get in there. Maybe you can and can't get in there with a finger, but certainly with some type of little tool, you can get in there to adjust the headrest or remove it if necessary. But like I said, that's usually unlikely. For motorized headrests, you don't have to worry about it at all. It's usually a switch somewhere on the seat that you could adjust the height of the headrest, and that'll just cure itself. So once this is applied, then obviously you're going to plug this into the back of the monitor. And if this was to be removed, we're just going to do that whole installation in reverse. You're going to remove the two screws here, remove the cover. You're going to remove the bolt, the washers and the locking nuts here. You're going to remove this. And again, just take care and consideration when handling it. So you're handling it with kid gloves. We're going to remove these washers and nuts here, and then we're going to slowly apply pressure down just to slide this out to remove the one bracket. And then you can either take a piece of cloth now, tuck it up under this bracket. Once it's in there, you can either do it with your fingers, or you can even do it with, again, a plastic tool, not a metal tool, nothing sharp. Slide it up under there. So when you're sliding out the bracket, you're sliding out the bracket without creating reverse friction, that can either rub the cable on top of the seat and make a little ripple in the material, which is unlikely but still preventative nonetheless, and prevent any damage from the actual metal scraping, ripping, tearing, or notching into the material itself. And then you pull out your cable. Like I said, you did no cutting. You should be doing no cutting at the point of original installation. So you're just gonna, again, take your plastic tool to just give a little guidance to pull out the cable, and then you're done. And again, this whole video, the intent here is just the best practices of installing it. Generally, this will be installed and be utilized in that personal vehicle and probably sold with that personal vehicle at some point. But if it was to be removed, these are best practices to eliminate or mitigate any potential damage to the seat itself. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this tutorial from VOXX Electronics. If you have any further questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to connect with us directly on Facebook or Instagram at VOXX Electronics.